Hi everyone, Alistair Davies here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in today. Today's lesson is all about how to use the ground with different clubs. So I'm going to talk you through the keys with using the ground with an iron versus using the ground with a driver. What happens naturally and why it happens, and basically the concept of using the ground in total. Because it is pretty much the same, but obviously things happen differently with different clubs. So we're going to get to and cover both of those things. If you are a new viewer, please consider following and subscribing. I post 3 videos a week, all on different subjects, short game, long game, course strategy stuff, all designed to lower your scores. So please keep watching to learn all about using the ground with different clubs. So we're going to focus on using the ground with different clubs. In particular, we're going to look at a driver and a mid-iron and how maybe conceptually we're trying to do the same thing, but how we get slightly different outcomes with using the ground with these two weapons. Essentially, because our width of stance changes, how we push off the ground makes us push in a slightly different direction. I'll get into that in 1 second. So conceptually, I want you to feel you're doing exactly the same with both these clubs, okay? There are natural occurrences that happen with our swing to change things, and there are natural occurrences how we use the ground to change things. Most of it is designed that way via our setup changes. So with a 7-iron, I would have a shoulder width stance and the ball position in the center. With a driver, I'd have a slightly widened shoulder width stance and the ball position left heel. So with a driver, my center of mass is actually behind the ball. With an iron, my center of mass is almost on the ball. It's probably back edge of the ball or within a centimeter or two of the ball, but it's there or thereabouts. Now, with a driver, because my stance is wider and my center of mass is back, as I push into the ground on the downswing and then push off the ground or away from the ground, it's pushing my force back to where my center of mass is, as long as I've moved correctly. So therefore, it's making my head move back behind the ball and making me back up more through impact. That in turn is going to help me deliver a more upward angle of attack. Again, naturally, I'm not trying to do that as long as I have the ball position in the correct place in the wider stance. With a 7-iron, as I push into the ground and push off the ground, my sternum and center of gravity is pretty much more over the ball now because of the way I've moved my pressure in the downswing from a narrower stance. With an iron, I'm going to certainly get 80% of my pressure into my lead foot around about contact. So as I'm getting that, and that happens pretty early in the downswing, to be honest, that will happen when the shaft gets to be about vertical like this. So as I start to push off the ground, my center of mass is pretty much on top of the ball or slightly on the front of the ball. So it's not making me fall backwards as such. The driver, because the pressure isn't getting back as quick to the lead side, and because of the width of stance and the mass is behind the ball, as I said to you, we tend to push backwards more. So there's a very different look to the swing on video with the head movement and upper body movement and the direction in which we extend. So with the driver, we're going to be extending more back here. With an iron, we're very much more extending more on top of the ball, stroke just past the ball. So the finish position with your head is going to be different with both clubs. And that's all to do with our center of mass in relation to our width of stance with the relevant clubs. Okay? So I want you not to try and consciously do anything. What I would say to you is the most common faults I see with people with the driver is they tend to get their sternum too close to the lead foot in the downswing. And I think that's a real no-no for me for driving. So making sure we have the right width of stance with the driver and making sure that we have the sternum staying back, maybe even feel that we extend and move our head back a little bit is going to be a good thought for you with the driver. Now with the iron, as we use the ground, so as we come down, we're definitely going to feel like we push into the ground, push off the ground. Try to feel it's not going backwards at all. That's going to help you get ball and turf and pressure on the ball. Let's go ahead and try and hit one of those. Good strike there, just a slight bit of turf. I don't tend to take huge divots anyway, but it's a slight bit of turf. The turf is after the ball. I was happy with the strike on that. Turned it over a touch more than I want. That's just not a great golf swing at this moment in time. Now the driver, as I said, important we get the setup right. We need to tee the ball up high. That's going to encourage us to hit up on the ball. Otherwise, we're going to naturally want to squeeze in, get the sternum forward. We're going to want to see our ball position opposite our lead foot, lead instep ID or lead heel. I want then to see, your sternum or zip on your top to be kind of in the middle of your stance, behind the ball, and your head on the same line. As I said, when I make the same golf swing now, as I kind of push into the ground, keep the sternum back, I push off the ground, you'll see how I get more right side bend, the head goes up, the back extends this way. That's exactly what we want to happen. Again, hit up on that, tee just brushed out the ground there, nice high flight. Slightly down the right hand side. Again, I'm trying to over exaggerate the head being back for you, for sure. So it's slightly overdone just to make the point for the demonstrations. The key thing from the video is just to understand there's a different look to how you move your upper body in the down swing and through swing with the driver and iron because of how we place our sternum relevant to the width of the stance at the start and the location of the ball at the start of the golf swing. The rest is pretty unconscious. The only thing I would encourage you to do with the driver is make sure we keep this upper body back, but turn and extend. That's going to help you hit up on the ball. And again, generally, a generalization here, most people tend to hit down on the ball and across the ball with the driver. So it's going to help those two things for sure. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on looking at how the ground works with different clubs and conceptually what you can do to make it a little bit better. If you have, please click like and share the video. Also, please chat down below, ask any questions, request any videos, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can with a response or a video that's going to really suit you and suit your game. Lastly, if you haven't subscribed or followed already, please hit my logo down this bottom corner. Join me on my journey. Let me help you lower your scores and improve your golf. And at the same time, then you help me. So thank you for watching. Hope to see you again here soon. Take care of yourself.